Hello, everyone, and happy holidays. Dave Miller, Fidelity National Home Warranty. On behalf of CRES E&O Insurance and Fidelity National Home Warranty, we'd like to welcome you all to our December risk management webinar with our special guest, Mark Carlson of the Carlson Law Firm. Mark, how are you?
Good, thanks. Happy holidays.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. You know, this is the time of year where we start looking at what's happening the next year, and you put out a great risk management piece that we're going to go through some of the topics today. But just tell us a temperature right now for E&O claims, given the market that we're in. Are we in a high E&O claim market or a lower?
I think it's about middle of the road in comparison to, the years past. Where there's fewer sides because there's less inventory. And so with fewer sides, that reduces the opportunities for things to go wrong. The market hasn't been declining, so people haven't been suing to try to get their equity back. So I think as far as the number of claims that we're getting, it's pretty middle of the road right now.
That's a great point. Tell us, and I know it's a very hot topic, the NAR ruling that came down, I guess it's been about a month or so. How does that affect realtors? What kind of things should they look for or react to from that ruling?
Yeah, so it's creating a lot of angst, right? Everybody wants to know what they need to do because they feel that if they don't do something that they're not doing things properly. But the reality is it's going to take months to get that judgment finalized. And then once it's finalized, it's going to take many months, maybe a year or two, in order to get through the appeal process. There are other lawsuits that are pending throughout the country that where a couple of them might have a national impact. And I think what the strategies really are to be prepared for what may happen is just a couple of things on the listing side. Number one, make sure that the listing agents, when you're acting as a listing agent, make sure that your seller realizes that the commission being offered is going to go towards the selling agent. That was one of the arguments that they made, and as ridiculous as it may sound, but they had sellers who were coming into trial saying, listen, I didn't know that I was paying for my adversary's representation. I never would have done that had I known, what was really going on. And then make sure that that's clear, which I think it is. But then another thing too is to really have a discussion with the seller as to the benefits of the offer to the selling agents as part of the marketing strategy for the property. And what I mean by that is, okay, seller, if you want to offer 1% to the selling side, here's what you can expect. If you want to offer 3.5%, here's what you can expect, or somewhere in between, so that the seller is part of the decision-making process as to how much of a commission they're going to offer to the selling side in order to attract buyers and make it clear that it's part of the marketing strategy. And then within that, describe how the MLS benefits sellers so that they understand that process. And then when you're on the buyer side, of course, you got to make sure they understand that you're not working for free. That was the argument that they made in the Missouri case, that buyers were saying, listen, I had no idea that the commission was baked into the purchase price. So just make sure that they understand you're not working for free. You're going to get a commission. And then, use the buyer broker forms, when you are looking to get a commission that's different from what's being offered by the seller. And then, be forthright with the buyer as to how much commission you're going to be receiving. And that's kind of the two strategies that I've heard CAR push on, two strategies on the two sides that I've heard CAR push and what I think a lot of offices are doing right now.
You released a risk management update through CRES Insurance and Fidelity, and we're going to send it out to all of our clients. And I like it a lot because it talks a lot about getting back to the basics for agents. And I'm sure that you see it come across your desk all the time, these minimal errors that turn out to be big things because they should have just been known. And maybe that agents are getting away from some of the standard practices. And that's what I love about your risk management piece. The first one was understanding the legal landscape and how agents, and you recommending them attending legal seminars and getting in with their local realtor association and understanding local laws and stuff like that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so when we think about risk management, we use that term in the singular sense. It makes it seem like, okay, you just do one thing and then you're going to be fine. Which, as we know, isn't the case, right? If there was a silver bullet, everybody would be doing it, and we wouldn't need E&O insurance, and I'd be out of a job. But so really, if you flip the words and say, what do I do to manage my risk? Then it becomes apparent, or more apparent, that it really is a collection of strategies. And one of those strategies, of course, is being familiar with what's going on in the legal landscape, not to the extent that a lawyer, would be on top of things, but certainly knowing, if there's new trends coming in from the state level, or if you've got local ordinances that might affect, real property, having a set schedule. Okay, once a quarter, I'm gonna go attend some sort of legal updates, whether it be a webinar with CAR or your local board, or something within your office, but just trying to keep on top of which way the wind is blowing from a legal perspective is kind of the cornerstone, if you will, to managing your risk.
Another point of emphasis you talked about was understanding the agents and brokers, understanding the contracts and disclosure forms. Some of these agents will sell 20, 30 homes a year, and they just whip through the disclosure forms because they're so used to doing that. Well, sometimes they're buyers and sellers. They do this every 20 years, sometimes when they buy a house or sell a house. So the importance of understanding those disclosure forms, give us some feedback on that.
Yes, agents are, as you said, so accustomed to filling out the forms. They know where the terms need to go, but a lot of times that familiarity works to being less familiar. The flip side of that is, okay, I know where I need to put the terms in, but I haven't really looked at some of the other terms in a really long time. So, I recommend that every so often, again, once a quarter, twice a year or something, read the forms that you use for the purpose of understanding what they say, not for the purpose of just filling it out. And the reason being is that you want to be able to be familiar with the forms so that you can explain their contents to your clients. So if you go back to kind of what's the embryo to a lawsuit? Well, the embryo to a lawsuit is some sort of dissatisfaction. A buyer or seller is not happy with something that happened in a transaction, and if they're usually dissatisfied because their expectation doesn't turn out to be what actually happens. And so by explaining the forms carefully and having a broad understanding of what they provide really helps to avoid those initial misunderstandings, which lead to dissatisfaction, which then again can lead to a lawsuit. And you'll hear me say that for the rest a couple of times throughout this presentation. So a lot of these things are sort of amorphous concepts, but you think about, what we're really trying to do is to keep people happy.
Talk about embracing technology. I know it's confusing as we get older, all of the apps and everything, but real estate professionals needing to embrace it. And you explain that technology is really the ally to their risk management. And then also talk a little bit about the cybersecurity and how that's affecting E&O claims.
So this is being recorded in December, and so I like to. This time of year is a great way to use this, or a great time to use this analogy, which is if you're trying to put into your daily schedule time to go down to Staples to pick up your 2024 day planner, stop doing it on paper. There are so many customer relationship management softwares, CRM. There's other transaction coordinating software that most every office uses. Those kind of software pieces really help you record what happened, when it happened, and who was there when it happened. And that's the key to establishing before a jury, should you get sued down the road, that you're actually telling the truth, because now you've got a record that was recorded at the time that things were happening, as to what was said to whom and who said it, and who all was around. And it's just a really important piece. And plus it helps you make sure that you have all the documents, especially using the transaction coordinating software and systems that a lot of the offices have, where you can just email a copy of a document into the office, and it gets saved. You don't have to worry about your computer crashing, or you have a hard drive that fails. So it really is important to embrace new technologies and figure out how they can make your practice better. And then with cybersecurity, every agent has personal information, and that personal information is defined under the civil code of their clients. And as a fiduciary, you have certain legal obligations to protect that information. And if there's a breach, you've got obligations to notify people of that data breach. And you may have to, if it's your fault, you may have to provide for credit monitoring for your clients for a year. And so it can be very expensive. If you've got to pay that $20 a month to over 500 clients that were in your database that got, because you left your laptop in the at a library or wherever, then it's very expensive. It can be very expensive. So having a just your Wi-Fi router at the house that comes in from Spectrum or whoever your internet provider is isn't enough. You should go down to someplace, get a firewall, get some IT help, try to create at least some sort of protection. That way, if you do get sued from a cybersecurity issue, then you can say, listen, I go above and beyond what normal people do. I've done these steps to protect my client's interest, and then it's a matter of, well, was that sufficient? Which is a much better place to be in than I don't have anything at all. I've got a Gmail account, which is what the cybercrime folks really like to pick on, where they'll create URLs that look very close to your email address. But if you're using your office email that has its own unique URL, then they can't create another email address that looks like yours, because the domain would be different. So it's very important. And there's cybersecurity crime just keeps getting more sophisticated, more prevalent as we go along. It's not getting any better.
And it's certainly not going away. We know that.
For sure.
You talk about agents and brokers and ethics and being transparent. And sometimes by being too transparent and ethical, you could lose a sale over it, and that's okay. You talk about that. Talk about the NAR code of conduct and how agents should be knowledgeable of that, and just being transparent in the transaction.
Yeah, so we get those terms that are prevalent throughout the forms, honest dealings, good faith, and fair dealings. It's in the BIA, it's in the agency disclosure, it's in the purchase contract. So, but what does it mean really? And that's the difficult part, to be able to apply it to your practice. It's like your psychology class in college, right? It's at least for me, it was just a matter of putting labels on things that you already innately kind of know. But it's helpful to find those labels and use those labels, because then it puts it more at the front of your mind rather than just being a subconscious type of thing. So the code of ethics is important, because if you're practicing real estate in California and you're a member of an MLS, that means you're a member of CAR and you're a realtor, and that a realtor means something. It means that you've ascribed by the NAR code of ethics. And if you haven't read the code of ethics or the standards of practice, then it's hard to say that, okay, I'm operating in a way that's consistent with them. And so I half jokingly say, if you've never read those, then put them next to your nightstand. And when you're having difficulties falling asleep, read them until you fall asleep. And then the next couple of nights, if it happens again, pick up where you left off. And within a week or two, you'll have gotten through everything. It's not that complicated. But and then live up to what those standards ascribe to, and they are aspirational. They're not the definition of a standard of care, but that's what we all want to do, right? We all want to be the A student, not the C students, and because that helps us avoid the dissatisfaction by the clients again. And you mentioned about being honest with market factors or areas where it might avoid a sale. That certainly could happen. There could be a house that your clients really love, and their financial situation, and you can see as a professional that they're making a bad decision. Well, rather than just saying, well, that's their decision, they're big boys and girls, be honest with them. Say, maybe you ought to think about something different, because here's the problems that you might have. And again, if they are dissatisfied after the transaction, then that's where that dissatisfaction leads to lawsuits.
You know, a great protector of E&O lawsuits is an E&O insurance policy. Obviously, CRES Insurance, the largest writer of E&O in California, one of the largest in the nation. Um, a lot of our viewers here have CRES E&O insurance, and for those who don't, should seek CRES E&O insurance. They're a great E&O provider. But talk about how agents and brokers sometimes get into trouble because they're doing some side stuff that might not be covered under the E&O insurance, like property management or maybe agent-owned property flips, stuff like that.
So your E&O policy really is the last line of defense to a lawsuit. And if you don't have a good policy with coverages, then you're going to be bearing those losses on your own. And really, what we're looking to do for most agents, they're just relying upon the broker to buy a policy that matches what they need. But there are some things that you mentioned that are common exclusions that agents should be knowledgeable of. So that way, if they get into a transaction, they know at least enough to say, oh, this might be something that there could be a coverage issue. I better go talk to my manager. Agent-owned properties. If I am representing myself and others, like maybe through an LLC, or if I'm buying or selling a property on my own account, there are some limitations of coverage, and there's some requirements that need to happen in order for there to be coverage, to have coverage in those circumstances. So you need to know what those requirements are. Flipping properties is another common exclusion. The condo conversions, property was an apartment, now is a condominium. There's typically exclusions for coverage subject to certain things that need to be done in that kind of circumstance. Property management typically is not covered unless there's a separate property management rider. And those kind of cases are really difficult because sometimes you can get into a circumstance where you're an unintended property manager, as I like to say. You're helping the seller with, dealing with the tenants while you're trying to get the property ready for sale. And then all of a sudden, that balance tips in one direction. And now you've done one too many things on the scale that make it appear that you were actually acting as a property manager. So just things to be aware of. And if there's any doubt, of course, you need to talk to your manager, because they'll have access to the policies and know exactly what the office has and doesn't have with respect to coverages.
We talk about CRES Insurance and how they're different. I'll tell you how they're different, because they want to hear from you when you think you have the claim, not when you already have it. And risk management is so important in a real estate transaction. And you talk about the importance of almost having like an attorney sitting on your shoulder at all times throughout that transaction. And just talk about the importance of risk management and how involving an attorney early, right when you think there might be a problem, can actually help the lawsuit go away.
So most agents have that spidey sense, I'll call it. Okay, this particular client is I'm worried. They may give me an uneasy feeling, or, oh geez, I'm in a circumstance now where I'm not quite so sure what to do. That's the time when you need to get a risk management attorney involved. And it isn't because they're smarter or whatever than you. It's just a different perspective, right? So most agents are used to seeing the deals that go smoothly. To coin a baseball term, that they see the can of corn coming at them every day. But us lawyers that do risk management work, especially for, like with my firm, where we've got we handle risk management matters all up and down the state. We see where the trends are in one area of the state where maybe they haven't yet appeared in another area of the state. And so to stick with the baseball analogy, we're catchers that are doing nothing but fielding curveballs and knuckleballs. And so, we're able or a risk management attorney is able to help you navigate and spot threats maybe that you didn't even realize. And then again, to try to have the transaction successfully close, everybody gets paid, buyer gets property, and with knowing everything that's happening, seller gets the property sold. And so it turns it, what could be a bumpy transaction, hopefully smoothing that road out to have a smooth landing, towards a close of escrow.
Talk about due diligence for agents and brokers in a transaction, and how doing that can really lessen the blow later, possibly from an E&O lawsuit.
So this is another area where I'm going to use that psychology analogy. So everybody's going to say, well, of course I do my own due diligence. I'm a good agent. I do what I'm supposed to do, and I know what I'm supposed to do. So that's nonsense. That really isn't a risk management strategy. But when you think about it, it is. And the reason it is because you may be like a lot of top agents I know. They have the uncanny ability to remember the when a property sold, who bought it, what it sold for, whether they had kids or a dog, and and so the area that they farm, they know those details just from rote. But so when you go into a listing presentation and you say we should list your property for whatever X dollars, and the seller says, well, okay, then when the lawsuit comes in, if there's a claim that the property undersold, the seller says, well, geez, I think you undersold because my cousin Jimmy, who knows a lot about real estate, told me that the property was really worth a lot more than what it sold for. And so now, again, you're getting that seed of discontent that grows into a lawsuit. But if on the flip side, if you come in with that knowledge that's in your head, but now you print it out on paper, okay, seller, here's all the sales that have closed in your area. Here's why I think that this purchase price is appropriate. Same thing with the buyer. Hey, buyer, here's the current sales. Here's where I think you need to be. Then they have an understanding as to what you're recommending and why you're recommending it. And even down to inspection requirements or requests, just being open to with the clients as to why you're recommending the things you are, and showing them the backup data that you're using to make that decision. But all that's contained within your experience and years of doing this.
Oh, you just mentioned the word inspection and inspectors. How important it is for agents and brokers to build a reliable network with title, escrow, home warranty, appraisers, inspectors. How valuable can that be for them?
So a chain is as strong as its weakest link, right? We've all heard that, and that applies really to this circumstance. So you may be, the best agent in the area since the invention of sliced bread. But if the people that you're recommending to your clients are not cut from that same cloth, then that's again going to breed potentially dissatisfaction. If they have a home inspection that misses things, then they've discovered after the fact, then they become disgruntled. So what escrow officer, title, we talked about, you talked about, home warranty, which we'll go over a little bit more detail in a second. These are all things that or professions and other vendors or service providers that the buyers and sellers are going to need, and to have a list of 2 or 3 that you can say to your clients, okay, here's a list of a couple of or 3 home inspectors that our clients have had good experiences with. You might want to call one of those. So now you're not, there's some folks are, I think, unreasonably concerned about giving recommendations so that they avoid lawsuits of giving a negligent referral. But really, that standard is so high. You have to almost refer somebody that either doesn't have a license for which you're referring them, or you're referring somebody that is not competent to do the job. That's the legal standard. But again, we're trying to be play the A game, not just get the pass no pass in the class. So having folks that you can refer your clients to that are going to be professional and provide good service is key to avoiding that dissatisfaction, which leads to lawsuits.
Well, that's such a great point, because at Fidelity, we always tell our agents and brokers, use us. We're going to take care of your clients. And sometimes we get some pushback on, no, I have to give them 3 companies because I'm worried about them coming back after me. So your words of wisdom there are good, because there's not really a lot of liability in there, correct?
Right. Yeah. And again, if you're just saying, here are some folks that some contractors, an architect, whomever, that our clients have reported to us that they've had good experiences with, that's not an endorsement, right? You're just relaying information that from what other people have said, and of course you want that to be true. So you don't want to just put them on the list and then say that as though it's and not be truthful. Try to get some feedback from your clients that they are in fact happy with the folks that you've recommended.
Perfect. And it's safe to say, here's three companies, but here is the one that I've used over the years, and Mark Carlson's been great. He's always taking care of my clients. That's appropriate.
And well, the next question obviously is going to be, well, who do you like? And then that's the time where you can say, well, there's three, they're all great. Here's this one is good for this, that one is good for that. Then you can have that conversation so that the buyer or seller can make the appropriate decision.
Perfect. Well, you just mentioned great. Let's talk about how great Fidelity National Home Warranty is. But we know that 98% or 95% of E&O lawsuits are buyers suing sellers, and home warranties can help reduce a lawsuit coming up after the sale of escrow, because that home warranty protects the buyer's home for 12 or 13 months after the sale of escrow. So talk about how a home warranty can help in E&O lawsuits.
So a lot of times these lawsuits stem from very small problems. I get in, I'm happy. 2 weeks after the dishwasher immediately fails. And so now I'm suspect. All right, well, geez, what else might go wrong? And now I'm looking for things. But if that problem gets fixed quickly to the buyer's satisfaction, then it's like, all right, well, it was just a fluke and no big deal. But when you have, in some circumstance where, I'm sure everybody has the experience where a buyer calls for home warranty coverage, and they get a service call. Nah, sorry, that's not covered. No, I can't fix it. I'm going to have to come back. And then, but here, pay me my service call fee. And then the second time they come back, it's somebody different. Oh, you got to pay a service call fee. Well, wait a minute, I just paid a service call fee. And so again, that's what leads to dissatisfaction. Now I think I'm sounding like a broken record, but it really is in this circumstance. It really is true. If you can get somebody out there that on a home warranty claim that provides quick and thorough service, then that leaves a happy buyer, and happy buyers don't typically sue.
That's great. Talk about lastly, continuing education and training, and how when real estate professionals renew their license, it's not just a checkbox. What care should they take in their CE credit?
Similar to being abreast of the legal environment, you'd also need to be abreast of what's going on from a nuts and bolts perspective. What are some of the sales trends? How are people marketing their properties in a better way? The real estate industry constantly evolves, and if you're stagnant and just do the same thing the same way, then people that have more up-to-date methods of doing things might be attractive to certain clients, and then you're going to lose business. So it's go to trade shows a couple of times a year, go to the different marketing strategy type seminars and webinars that are out there a lot. If your office is offering something, even though you think go. If you come away from a training hour at your office and get one little piece of information that you might be able to use to improve your practice or do things a little bit differently, then that's a win, right? That's what you're looking for. Because if you do it 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, now by the end of the year, you're doing a handful of things differently than you were at the beginning of the year, and hopefully, again, it leads to better service to your clients, more professional service to your clients, which should results. It always isn't. Marketing is never one-to-one, as we all know, but certainly should lead to more sales, more listings, more buyers, and more commission dollars.
Well, again, I just really appreciate meeting with you today. So many of these topics, we're getting back to the basics. And Mark, I've known you 25 years. I know you've been doing this for over 30. I know you're not that old. But I don't think there's anybody better, because you are on the front line all the time, just doing real estate E&O claims, and that's what makes you an expert. Mark, thanks so much for your time today.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for the invite. Happy to give some of these strategies to hopefully keep people out of trouble. I'm like the dentist, right? Nobody wants to come and see me.
Right. Well, on behalf of CRES Insurance and Fidelity National Home Warranty and Carlson Law Group, happy holidays to everyone. And we'll give you an update in the first part of next year. Okay. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Dave.